I'm Chris Boivin. I am the Managing Director of the Green Municipal Fund. The GMF works with communities across Canada to accelerate sustainable, low-carbon, and increasingly resilient investments. And fundamentally what we do is we help municipalities and their partners move from great ideas to bankable projects quickly. We've been around for 25 years. We're kind of a global innovation, to be honest, as a model that mixes concessional financing with capacity development and partnering with other actors to advance municipal sustainability. And in keeping with the theme of the day, we all know that climate change is more than just mitigation now, right? We are seeing the impacts of climate change every day, and everyone's talking about resilience. But what does investing in resilience actually mean? And that interpretation of what it can mean would be different if you're a municipal actor or stakeholder versus a financier or a lender. And really this session is about unpacking that today to explore how we can turn the concept of resilience into concrete investable opportunities. Specifically, to unlock strong risk-adjusted returns from scalable municipal projects and how public and private capital can come together to make adaptation finance not just feasible, but attractive to lenders and municipalities alike. And so why municipalities? Why would municipalities be an important consideration for investors? Well, fundamentally, they own a significant number of assets and infrastructure in communities across the country. And they also have tremendous influence on a whole other array of assets that are in their communities that they support through their services and utilities and so on. And if you think of vulnerabilities of businesses and economies, think about climate change impacting the fundamental services that municipalities provide. That's about business continuity, that's about economic continuity. So how do we address that resilience and support municipalities in supporting the economy effectively at the end of the day? And also, I think an important consideration in this conversation is that municipalities represent one of the most stable borrowers in the country. Their credit rating is about as strong as it can get, yet many of them don't fully utilize their debt capacity. So there's a real opportunity there to unlock further resilience and support not just communities, but the Canadian economy. So the question we'll explore today is how do we make that stability, that reliability work so investors, lenders, and all communities can benefit? So with that, I'm thrilled to be joined by a fantastic panel representing all the key pieces of the puzzle. We have investors, lenders, community leaders, and maybe not quite right to left, but I will go in the sequence on my list. So starting with Roger Beauchemin, President and CEO of Addenda Capital, who brings a wealth of experience in sustainable investing and institutional finance. So two to my left. Also Jennifer Hutchian, who is the Vice President of Van City Community Investment Bank. She leads initiatives in social purpose real estate and climate finance. Right next to me to my left, Soren Christensen, who is the program manager at the City of Kingston, and he focuses on municipal climate action and resilience planning with the city. And finally, Jonathan Frank, who is the Chief Development Officer at Cabin. He specializes in sustainable housing solutions and green building technologies. So to get us all rolling, here's my first question, and I'll address it to Roger first, and then maybe Soren can bring the municipal perspective. What does investing in resilience really mean in practice? And why should it matter to commercial lenders and institutional investors who may not directly own physical assets? Why should we care about this growing need and opportunity?
Well, thanks, Chris. Bonjour à tous, Roger Beauchemin. Donc, merci de m'inviter encore une fois à cette belle conférence. As an asset manager, firstly, Addenda Capital, really we invest the assets of our clients, and our clients are mostly insurance companies, pension funds, and institutional investors. We do have some private wealth in there. The way we look at it, let's say we're $42 billion, we touch about 1.5 million Canadians. So we invest the money of Canadians for Canadians. And from that perspective, we need to have, our first order of business is to provide a fiduciary duty of financial return. Now, being attached to a cooperative insurer, we got to understand the reality of mitigation and climate risk and the importance of getting on the mitigation track early and the materiality of that for our portfolio managers. So how you make better investment decisions on a risk and a reward basis. Resilience is something we've been dabbling with for about 5 years, understanding that the reality of it is that there's already climate change occurring to Canadians and communities, and the need is such that we have to have scale and breadth of it. And the federal government is the payer of last resort. The province is next. Before that, municipalities actually feel it every day. So how do we bring that? How do we bring private capital to bear to unlock? And so that's where we have conversations on blended finance and that approach, because if we have to charge the return for the risk we take, at the cost of capital is too expensive. So how do we work with other instances? And I think that's what we're leaning into. But why do we do it? Because it's an unsolved problem. We have to get there because we have to change things. And there are, from an investment perspective, you can look at it. The insurers view direct indemnification is really, for $1 prevention, it's you protect $10 of payouts. That's on direct. If you lean into indirect and health issues and like sewer systems that cities have to rebuild after a flood on all that, you actually get to 1 to 20. So if your cost of capital plus the project is 5, you still save 15. So it makes sense. That's the general rule. That's why we're involved.
Thank you, Roger. Soren, what's your view on the opportunity here?
Yes, thank you, Chris. So from the municipal perspective, municipalities own and operate 60% of the critical infrastructure across Canada, and we derive most of our revenues from property taxes, whether that's residential property taxes, commercial, industrial. And so there's very high demand for programs and funding, and as Roger just said, the return on investment for avoided future costs for proactive investment in climate resilience is at the very lowest 3 to 6-fold and can be 15 or 20-fold. So it's very clear priority for Canadian municipalities. And in Kingston, speaking specifically for Kingston, we just finished our climate adaptation plan, and it has become a major focus. It's not that mitigation is no longer a focus, but every municipality is shifting focus to climate adaptation. If they don't already have a plan that's being implemented, they are working on developing one. So this is a priority across the entire nation. Just to emphasize some of the investments we've made and the work we've done with the GMF already. So we just finished a multi-year pilot, Better Homes Kingston, that was focused on energy efficiency investments. We deployed around 10 million in capital. And moving forward, we are limited in the amount of debt we can carry as a municipality. We are limited in the amount of investments we can make, but demand remains high. There's high demand for these programs. So we need to tap into sources of capital to continue to scale because the impacts of resilience are so significant and the payback is so significant. So I guess to sum up, what does it really mean to invest in resilience from a municipal perspective? It means being proactive. It means safeguarding our communities, our residential building stock, our commercial entities and their business returns that are highly impacted by the impacts of climate change, and our society. And more broadly, investing in resilience is actually safeguarding the long-term economic viability of our nation. And this is work that is being done on the ground at the municipal level, and that's why it's such an important focus.
Yeah, really well said, Soren. Thank you for that. Maybe shifting gears a little bit, question for you, Jennifer. So from a financing standpoint, what makes municipal investments attractive to commercial lenders and institutional investors alike?
Sure, thanks, Chris. I think certainly to speak from a lender's perspective, municipalities are inherently low risk when we look at different borrowers across our lending spectrum. I think they have a unique capacity not only to run the PACE programs and administer them, but also the broader tax base. And that is a very secure form of lending for any lender out there. You know, and that low-risk nature of municipal clients is what can really allow lenders to unlock really interesting and creative and innovative programs because you're working with these borrowers who are inherently low risk. And so to be able to come up with programs that can really suit what they're trying to do in their own initiatives is huge, and especially partnering with people like GMF to run pilot programs. The municipal sector is really the area where we're quite happy to work to come up with some of these creative solutions. And, you know, also as Soren said, I think municipalities are really values aligned to what lenders want to do. You know, Van City itself is very much invested in climate solutions. It's part of our mandate. And so to work with the municipal sector, who's also quite concerned and actively working in this space, makes them a really good pairing for us as a lender.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Jonathan, did you want to jump in on this question?
Sure. So I'll start with a disclosure of my own in the interest of financial disclosures, which I am a Green Municipal Fund Council member. And so while my day-to-day is investing in developing sustainable infrastructure projects, I'd like to sort of merge those two mindsets together here in a blended way. So obviously, stability is critical, as Jennifer mentioned, as municipalities, as borrowers. But there's a few other points I'd like to raise. So first, municipalities are major asset owners, obviously, with long-term stewardship mindsets. What that means is instead of thinking about quarterly earnings, they're thinking about decades-long service delivery levels. And that supports best practices in sustainable and resilient development. The second is that municipalities reduce project-level risk through local insights and credibility. They're on the front lines of climate change and see the impacts year after year, street by street. That kind of local intelligence translates into clear project pathways and more bankable outcomes. And it's not just municipal assets. Programs like PACE that Jennifer mentioned, Property Assessed Clean Energy, or initiatives led through local utilities carry legitimacy. This can boost participation, especially with low-cost financing offers, and catalyze community action the way no single private lender can. Third is that they offer scale and pipeline certainty. Municipalities don't build one-off projects. They run and manage entire capital plans. This means repeatable deal structures, multi-year programs, and scalable investment opportunities across the country. So if municipalities are so attractive, why isn't private capital pouring in? Because the sector can feel fragmented and slow. Early stage development risk is still there. And there's an added challenge that with resilience and adaptation projects, where incremental CapEx often doesn't lead to incremental revenues, it is a challenge to support traditional debt models. So a different model is needed. I think this is where the Green Municipal Fund comes in. It's an origination partner that accelerates and de-risks projects. As Chris mentioned, for 25 years, GMF has been building municipal capacity, funding feasibility studies, pilots, and projects. And commercial lenders simply can't invest the years it takes to nurture these kinds of projects, the way GMF can and does. The result is a single source for vetted projects and a large pipeline. But the need for capital far exceeds what municipalities and GMF alone can provide. GMF's low-cost, long-term loans and grants can not only be the economic difference between a like-for-like infrastructure replacement, but can lead a project to becoming sustainable and resilient. And the loan guarantees and first loss structures it can provide are catalytic in crowding in private capital, aggregating deal flow at scale. So I think it's looking beyond municipalities just as borrowers. It's about municipalities as project partners and GMF as a key partner within that.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. So we've talked a fair bit about why investing in adaptation makes sense, why there's value there, why there's how there's quite a bit of avoided cost and avoided interruption to the economy that we can leverage by investing in resilience projects. But what makes them investable at scale would be my question. So how do we structure resilience investments so they balance competitive returns with measurable environmental and social outcomes that give lenders confidence in performance, but also bring credibility to municipal projects? So Roger, did you want to take a first stab at that question?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think I've kind of alluded to it at first. The problem with resilience is that to get the cash flows necessary from a private capital perspective, it's very complex because the cash flows are all over. It's not just saved insurance costs. It's rebuilding roads, it's rebuilding this. And so what's great about the municipal side, first of all, they know where the issue is. And then with the GMF, then you get the capital stack. So you get, if you can blend, this is where you really have to lean in and blend because you have to de-risk these projects. Capital, private capital needs to get the return it needs for the risk it takes, right? We cannot concede for our clients. Our clients are really thrilled if they can create good outcomes with the returns they get, but they can't concede. So when you've got a GMF structure or you got a feds coming in with a loss guarantee or a concessionary piece, GMF is a really critical player. The other side that's difficult here is actually getting to know the clients, getting to know the issuers. So around municipalities, if I come in, I mean, I look like I'm a suit who comes in from I'm from Montreal, but let's say I'm from Bay Street. Well, what are you going to help me with, right? It's the backup first. So you're trying to say, no, actually, I represent Canadians. I invest for Canadians. So getting that conversation, getting to know the partnerships, it's really complex. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not. And I think that's where the partnerships really, really come in. And if, this has not been done anywhere in the world at scale. So it's not as if we have a problem in Canada. It hasn't been done anywhere. I think the first place where it really was done was in Holland, where you had farmers pay for the dikes that were first built, right? And their bonds are perpetual bonds that are still around today that were financed in those days. And the works was done. And so there is resilience that was built in. But it hasn't been done at scale since. And I think Canada has got a unique perspective because of our ability to talk to each other and federate. So I think that's the real thing.
Thank you, Roger. Jennifer, any thoughts on how we crack this nut?
Yeah, I'll really just second what both Roger and Jonathan were saying in terms of partnering with someone, especially around pilot projects. I think if you can enter into some pilot programs to try and get these projects up and running and get a financeable model going, that's really that test and learn environment where you're going to try it, see what works, see what doesn't work, perfect it. Once it gets to that stage of it's been done, it's been proven out, that's when we can really build and scale, I think. And it'll become more broadly acceptable as to financiers and investors. And so I think getting involved in those pilot projects is very, very important.
Thank you, Jennifer, and certainly VCIB. We've seen firsthand the type of innovative projects that you've been able to support in recent years. Soren, your perspective from the city's side.
Yeah, thanks. So we're at a key turning point. As I've said, every municipality is focused on climate resilience. We have significant demand for resilience. There's a bit of a gap in our energy efficiency offering, and we've done focus groups, we've done surveys, and we have over 300 projects in our pipeline right now that we want to scale for our PACE program. So I think, speaking from firsthand experience, the support that the GMF provides for municipalities through the creation of program design studies, feasibility studies, business cases, and capacity development. In the public sector, we definitely speak the language of risk mitigation, checks and balances, and regulatory compliance, but we're speaking a bit of a different language than financial experts. And so the Green Municipal Fund is really that bridge between the public sector and the private sector, speaking both of those languages, translating, if you will, between them. And I will also say, a little bit of a hit against municipalities, but we do move slowly, but that also means that we move safely and with trusted partners like the GMF, I think, and a defined pathway that we see with PACE financing, with public infrastructure investments. There's various different financial models we can take. We really have confidence and trust, and more than that, political viability of the Green Municipal Fund. And we're just one medium-sized municipality, so the scope and scale of our investments may not be massive, but if every municipality across the whole country is looking to do the same thing, now we're talking about, very large-scale investments over a very long-term horizon. So really safe, reliable, long-term returns on an investment in an increasingly unreliable world. So yeah, let's get proactive and get going before we're saddled with debt.
Yeah, thank you, Soren. Certainly, from the GMF's perspective, we've seen over 2,000 projects since our inception, and many of those started as one of a kind. Right, that's a big part of our mandate, is to support some of that early innovation. But what we're looking for is opportunities that are scalable. So when we do fund that first of kind, it's really to kind of unlock a much bigger investment potential. And I think we're reaching a moment now where we're seeing a lot of that scalability, whether it's in PACE financing or district energy or waste management opportunities. It's a really interesting time, and resilience financing, I think, is probably the most significant when you think of the criticality of it over the near term. And so maybe final question for the panel here. What are the 3 most critical actions we need in the next 5 years to make resilience financing truly viable and profitable? So let's say on par with other sectors like clean energy as an example. Jonathan, did you want to start us off?
Sure, thank you. So first, I think we need to shift the financial model. We've talked a lot about the challenge that resilience projects have around added costs without the revenue streams. But you have the creditworthy counterparty of the municipality. So I think about the power purchase agreement was kind of the key unlock for renewables. But that isn't the only thing on its own. It was one of, I think, 3. So the other was scaling the socio-technical ecosystem, for sort of an academic term. But really that's, the PPA was one part with the creditworthy counterparties. The second piece was the technology costs falling, scaling up manufacturing, scaling up replicable projects. And the third was really the scaling up of the professional services and institutional capacity. And those 3 things together is what has led renewables to become a mainstream investment asset class. The third thing we would need to do is really aggregate these pools of scalable, replicable projects like Soren was talking about. And then the key thing there is blending that or merging that with a blended finance pool. So these one-off projects are amazing. They showcase what can be done, but it's just one-off projects. What we need is these aggregated multi-municipality, multi-project pools of projects and programs that can be backstopped by catalytic capital like GMF, and then crowd in the the private sector capital to create these large flows of projects that can really scale out across the country. And so I think that's the way you both de-risk these early stage projects, aggregate and scale, and merge the private and public capital in a blended finance model.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Jennifer, what would be your 3 critical actions?
Well, I don't know if I have 3. I might have one bigger one, which is just to really encourage everybody to really think about those partnerships. As Chris mentioned, VCIB, Van City, we have financed a few PACE programs with the City of Ottawa, also with Switch PACE in Atlantic Canada. And being able to do that as a bit of a pilot, innovator model allowed us to really unlock that lending scope for our organization. And so we are very comfortable with it. We're here ready to go. But there's lots of other lenders out there, and talk to GMF, talk to others in this space. You're all in this room together. Try and make those connections and make those partnerships happen, because I think the more broadly all the lenders out there are doing the same thing would be great to unlock that for the future.
Thank you, Jennifer. Roger?
Yeah, well, it's quite a tale. I think there's 3 things. First of all, we're still stuck on the what. I think a lot of Canadians, most Canadians, don't know what they're exposed to already, right? So they need to understand that they are at risk. And 85% of the Canadians most at risk don't know, right? So that's a what. The so what is definitely, as was said, you need to scale, right? But the thing is, to scale, the perils are different. Like if you're exposed to wildfire, it's a completely different situation than if you're exposed to flood, right? So, and the way you build a model around that is going to be quite different. But once you do that, then scaling, and that is for sure. Like that's where the secret sauce comes in, because that's where you got institutional investors like us can come in. And I've talked to enough pension funds and asset owners around to know that everyone's, if we can make it happen, the capital will be there.
Soren, your three critical actions.
Yeah, three critical actions would be coming together. I think it really doesn't make sense for all these individual municipalities to try and figure out these projects, attract investors. We're all approaching the same threats across different jurisdictions. So coming together, syndicating, and tapping into that national scale and opportunity that we have. And I would say acting fast. We really need to act fast and be proactive. Just as an example, not to be too doom and gloom, but over Halloween in Kingston, it rained 70 millimeters in 36 hours. And the average rainfall in Kingston in November is 80 to 90 mil. So the impacts of climate change are already here. And I think the viability of the Green Municipal Fund as a bridge to scale these investments in resilience is there. It's solid. We trust the Green Municipal Fund as municipalities. We want to take action forward. Let's work together to make that happen.
Thank you, Soren, and thank you very much to our esteemed panel. As you can see, clearly this is a really unique opportunity at a pretty pivotal moment in our country. You know, we're talking about economic resilience, and we're talking about how that really happens through our cities, right? And if we think of things like climate competitiveness and international competitiveness, the more resilient our cities are as places to work and live, the better positioned we'll be as Canadians going forward. And I know we're at time, so we won't be able to field any questions. But as Gary said, the GMF does have a booth in the back corner there. We'll be around. There's several of us if you'd like to chat and learn more about our work and opportunities to collaborate in sort of cracking this nut. We'd be happy to have that conversation. And thank you again to our wonderful panelists. Thank you.